I stared at the certified letter in my hands, reading it for the third time in disbelief. The Phoenix sun was already brutal at 7 in the morning, but the heat radiating from the paper seemed worse than the 105-degree forecast. Notice of violation and fine assessment. The letter began. Your property at 4782 Desert Bloom Circle has been found in violation of Saguaro Springs Community Association covenants, conditions, and restrictions. Section 3.4.7 Unauthorized landscaping modifications. Fine assessed $509. Payment due within 10 business days. I looked up at my front yard, squinting against the glare bouncing off my neighbor's white stucco wall. My xeriscaped garden looked exactly the same as it had for the past 3 years. Native desert plants, arranged around decorative river rock, designed specifically to comply with both HOA guidelines and Arizona's water conservation requirements. The only thing different was the single-barrel cactus I'd planted last weekend, a birthday gift from my daughter Emma. "Dad, what's wrong?" Emma appeared in the doorway, her dark hair still messy from sleep. At 17, she had that uncanny ability to sense trouble from 3 rooms away. HOA nonsense, I said, folding the letter. They're saying our cactus is an unauthorized landscape and modification. The birthday cactus. But it's literally a native plant. Didn't you check the approved species list? Of course I did. Barrel cactus is specifically listed as acceptable under Section 2.3.1. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the photo I'd taken of the relevant page. Right here, fair cactus species, all varieties approved for front yard installation. Emma stepped outside, her bare feet immediately recoiling from the hot concrete. "So what are you going to do?" "I'm going to call the management company and straighten this out." 20 minutes later, I was on hold with Desert Property Management, listening to the same saxophone-heavy elevator music for the 4th time. When a human voice finally replaced Kenny G, it belonged to a woman who sounded like she'd rather be anywhere else. "This is Brenda at Desert Property Management. How can I help you?" "Hi, Brenda. This is Mark Sullivan from Saguaro Springs. I received a violation notice that I believe is incorrect. The plant in question is specifically listed as approved in our CCRs." "Let me pull up your file." I heard keyboard clicking. "Okay, I see the violation here. Unauthorized barrel cactus installation." "Right, but barrel cactus is explicitly approved. I can email you the relevant section if you'd like." "Sir, the violation was filed by your HOA board president, Mrs. Patricia Hendricks. She knows the rules." "I'm sure she does, but people make mistakes. Could you please review Section 2.3.1 of our landscaping guidelines?" More keyboard clicking, then silence that stretched longer than the Arizona horizon. "Sir, I'm looking at the guidelines here and I don't see barrel cactus listed." My stomach dropped. "That's impossible. I looked at this document 3 days ago." The landscaping guidelines were updated last week. The new version went into effect Monday. "What?" I pulled up the HOA website on my laptop. I never received notification of any changes. All residents were notified via email on Friday afternoon. I checked my inbox spam folder, trash nothing. I didn't receive any email. "That's not our problem, sir. The violation stands. You need to remove the cactus and pay the fine, or it goes to collections." "Can I speak to someone else, maybe a supervisor?" "I am the supervisor. Is there anything else I can help you with today?" The line went dead before I could respond. I sat staring at my laptop screen, refreshing the HOA website. The new landscaping guidelines were there, uploaded 6 days ago, and barrel cactus was indeed no longer on the approved list. But the change felt deliberate, targeted. Patricia Hendricks lived 2 streets over, but her daily power walking route took her directly past my house. She'd commented on my landscaping before, always with a tight smile that never reached her eyes. "Still on hold?" Emma asked, returning with 2 glasses of ice water. "No, I talked to them. Apparently they updated the rules last week and didn't bother to tell anyone." "That's not legal, is it? Don't they have to give notice?" "I don't know. I guess I need to read our governing documents more carefully." Emma set down her glass and pulled out her phone. "Dad, you work in software. When companies change their terms of service, they have to notify users, right? Usually 30 days in advance. Usually, but HOA rules might be different. Let me look this up." Her fingers flew across her screen. According to Arizona revised statutes, HOAs have to provide written notice to all homeowners at least 30 days before any rule changes take effect. An email only counts if the homeowner specifically agreed to electronic communication. I stared at my daughter, pride mixing with amazement. How did you find that so fast? Google in 5 minutes. You should try it sometime. She grinned. But seriously, Dad, they can't just change rules without notice and immediately fine people. That's not how laws work. Okay, but proving they didn't give proper notice is another matter. Actually, it's not. Emma turned her laptop toward me. Look at this. Our HOA website has a news section with automatic timestamps. The landscaping change was posted at 4:47 p.m. last Friday. But check this out. She clicked to another tab. The violation was issued Monday morning, and your cactus was planted Sunday. So even if they had given proper notice, they're fining you for a plant that was legal when you planted it. Emma, that's brilliant, I know. I get it from you. I laughed despite myself. I was going to say thorough. Same thing, so what's the plan? Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw a woman in her mid-60s with perfectly styled silver hair and a clipboard clutched against her chest like armor. Patricia Hendricks. I opened the door to her practiced smile. Good morning, Mark. I hope you received our notice about your landscaping violation. I did, and I have some concerns about the timing. I'm sure you do, but rules are rules. The barrel cactus needs to go. Her gaze shifted past me to Emma, who had positioned herself in the hallway. Good morning, dear. Hi, Mrs. Hendricks, Emma said with teenage sweetness that masked pure steel. I love your earrings. Are those real diamonds? Patricia's hand instinctively went to her ears. Yes, they are, thank you. They're beautiful. I bet they cost more than Dad's cactus. Speaking of which, isn't it weird how the rules changed literally the day before he got fined? Like, what are the odds? The practiced smile flickered. The timing was coincidental. Was it, though? Because I was looking at the website analytics. I'm in AP Computer Science, and it shows the landscaping page only had 3 visitors between when the rules changed and when Dad got fined. You, Dad, and someone from Desert Property Management. I watched Patricia's face carefully. The smile was completely gone now. Young lady, I don't appreciate your tone. I'm sorry if I sounded rude. I just think it's fascinating how technology can track things like that. Like, did you know that our doorbell camera has been recording everyone who walks by? Dad installed it after those break-ins last month. Patricia's knuckles whitened around her clipboard. Well, I should get going. The cactus needs to be removed by Friday, Mark. Have a good day. She turned and walked away quickly, her low heels clicking against the concrete with increasing tempo. Emma, I said, after closing the door, that was either brilliant or dangerous. Why not both, Dad? She targeted you. This whole thing is personal. You don't know that. I absolutely know that. Remember when Mrs. Hendricks complained about our Halloween decorations and the time she said our trash cans were 3 inches too close to the street? And last year when she tried to get you fined for Emma's car being parked in our own driveway? She was right. Patricia had been a thorn in our side since the day we moved in, but this felt different, more calculated. Okay, let's say you're right. What do you suggest? Fight it. Research the bylaws, document everything, and make them follow their own rules. The next 3 days blurred together in a haze of legal documents and coffee. I downloaded every governing document from the HOA website, cross-referenced Arizona statutes, and built a timeline of events. Emma helped treating it like an extra credit project that might actually matter. We discovered that our HOA board had been remarkably creative with rule changes over the past year. They'd modified parking restrictions 2 days before, issuing 17 violations for previously legal parking situations. They'd changed pool hours the morning after Mrs. Chen's daughter's swim party, then fined the Chens for after-hours pool usage. The pattern was clear rule changes followed by immediate enforcement against specific residents. Dad, look at this, Emma said Wednesday evening, scrolling through HOA board meeting minutes. Mrs. Hendricks proposed the barrel cactus removal at the May board meeting. It says here she was concerned about aggressive desert flora that might injure children. Barrel cactus aren't aggressive, and they're not any more dangerous than the ocotillo plants that are still approved. Right. But look at who seconded the motion: Robert Walsh from Cactus Flower Drive. Guess whose house has 3 massive barrel cacti in the front yard? I leaned over her shoulder to read the screen. Walsh seconded a motion to ban plants he has in his own yard. Unless, wait. Emma pulled up Google Street View and navigated to Walsh's address. Nope, his barrel cacti are still there, probably because his wife is the HOA treasurer. This keeps getting better. Oh, it gets way better. I found Mrs. Hendrick's social media. Emma's fingers danced across her keyboard. She posted about problem neighbors who don't respect community standards 3 weeks ago. And look at this picture. The photo showed Patricia standing in someone's front yard, gesturing at a small barrel cactus. The geotag said Saguaro Springs, and the timestamp was 2 weeks before the rule change. Is that our house? That's our house. She was in our yard taking pictures for Facebook. I stared at the screen, feeling something between anger and disbelief. She was planning this. Dad, it's worse than that. Look at the comments. I read through the responses to Patricia's post. Most were generic supportive comments, but one stood out. Some people have no respect for property values. HOA boards need to take stronger action against rule violators. The commenter was listed as Brenda M. Emma, what's the last name of the woman at Desert Property Management? Let me check. Brenda Morrison. Why? Because I think our HOA president and the management company are working together to target residents. Emma leaned back in her chair. Dad, that's conspiracy theory territory. Is it? Think about it. Change rules without proper notice immediately, find specific residents refuse to acknowledge the procedural violations, and when residents call to complain, the management company stonewalls them. Okay, but even if that's true, what can we do about it? I looked at the stack of documents we'd accumulated over the past 3 days. Somewhere in that pile was the ammunition we needed. We're going to request a board hearing. Thursday morning, I submitted a formal hearing request via certified mail, citing multiple procedural violations and requesting a full review of the fine. Arizona law gave HOA boards 15 days to respond, but Desert Property Management called that afternoon. Mr. Sullivan, this is Brenda Morrison. I understand you're requesting a hearing regarding your landscaping violation. That's correct. I believe the fine was improperly assessed. The board has reviewed your request and scheduled a hearing for next Tuesday at 7 p.m. You'll have 10 minutes to present your case. 10 minutes seems inadequate for... 10 minutes is standard, Mr. Sullivan. The meeting will be held at the Desert Property Management Office on Camelback Road. Shouldn't it be held at a community location? Our governing documents specify that board meetings must be accessible to all residents. Silence stretched across the line. The meeting location is final. Do you plan to attend or not? I'll be there. Good. Bring your checkbook in case you decide to pay the fine and avoid further action. The line went dead again. I spent the weekend preparing for the hearing, organizing documents into a presentation that could fit into 10 minutes. Emma helped me practice timing each section and suggesting cuts when I ran long. Remember, Dad, you're not trying to win a legal case. You're trying to show them that you know they screwed up, and you're not going to roll over. What if they don't care? Then we move to Plan B. What's Plan B? I'm still working on that part. Tuesday evening, I drove to the Desert Property Management Office with a folder full of documents and a knot in my stomach. The building was a generic strip mall affair, wedged between a tax preparation service and a nail salon. The parking lot was nearly empty, except for a white Lexus SUV that I recognized as Patricia's. Inside, the office was beige and fluorescent lit, with motivational posters about teamwork and success that felt distinctly ironic. Patricia sat at a small conference table with 2 other people I didn't recognize: a balding man in his 50s wearing a golf shirt and a younger woman with blonde hair pulled back in a severe bun. Mark, thank you for coming, Patricia said without standing. This is Robert Walsh, our vice president, and Jennifer Martinez, our secretary. I took the empty chair across from them, noting that Brenda Morrison was nowhere to be seen. Before we begin, I said I'd like to confirm that this meeting is being recorded as required by Arizona statutes. The 3 board members exchanged glances. We don't typically record disciplinary hearings, Robert said. This isn't a disciplinary hearing. This is a formal appeal of an improperly assessed fine, which makes it an official board action. Arizona law requires all board meetings to be recorded or have minutes taken. We'll take notes, Jennifer said, pulling out a legal pad. I'd prefer a recording. I brought my own device if necessary. Patricia's smile returned sharper than before. That won't be necessary. Jennifer's notes will be sufficient. Now you have 10 minutes to explain why you believe your fine is invalid. I opened my folder and began. The fine is invalid for 3 primary reasons. First, the rule change was implemented without proper notice. Arizona statutes require 30 days. Written notice for HOA rule changes, but residents received less than 48 hours via email, assuming they received notice at all. All residents were notified via email, Robert interrupted. I never received an email notification, and I can demonstrate that my email address is correctly listed in the management company database. Second, even if proper notice had been given, I planted the cactus before the rule change took effect, making it legal at the time of installation. The rules were changed before you planted it, Patricia said. The rules were posted to the website Friday afternoon. I planted the cactus Sunday morning, but more importantly, the rules didn't take effect until Monday according to the notice itself. Third, the targeting of specific plants and residents suggests selective enforcement rather than legitimate community management. I pulled out printouts of Patricia's Facebook posts. These photos show HOA board members in residents' yards prior to rule changes documenting specific plants that would be banned. This suggests the rule changes were designed to target specific residents rather than address legitimate community concerns. Jennifer stopped taking notes. Robert's face had gone red. Are you accusing us of improper conduct? Patricia asked. I'm documenting a pattern of rule changes followed by selective enforcement. 4 residents have been fined for violations of rules that were changed within days of their alleged violations. Meanwhile, identical violations by board members' families have been ignored. That's a serious accusation, Robert said. It's a documented fact. Robert, your own property has 3 barrel cacti that remain in violation of the new rules, yet you've received no fine. My plants were grandfathered in. There's no grandfathering provision in the rule change. I've read the entire amendment. The room fell silent except for the buzzing fluorescent lights overhead. Your 10 minutes are up, Patricia said. The board will deliberate and notify you of our decision within 5 business days. I'd like to know the basis for your decision. The board's decision is final. Actually, it's not. Residents have the right to appeal board decisions to binding arbitration under Arizona law. I'd prefer to resolve this at the community level, but I'm prepared to pursue all available remedies. Patricia's composure cracked slightly. Is that a threat? It's a statement of fact. I'm not trying to be difficult, but I won't pay a fine that was improperly assessed under rules that were improperly implemented. We'll be in touch, Robert said, standing abruptly. I gathered my documents and headed for the door, then turned back. One more thing. This meeting should have been held at a community location accessible to all residents. Holding it at the management company office violates our governing documents. Just thought you should know. I walked out before they could respond. Wednesday afternoon, Emma met me at the door with her laptop and a grin that meant trouble. Dad, you're not going to believe what I found. Try me. Mrs. Hendricks filed a noise complaint against us yesterday. Says we had loud music playing until midnight on Tuesday. Yesterday I was at the hearing until 8:30, then came straight home and went to bed by 10. I know, I was here doing homework. The house was totally quiet. But here's the interesting part. The complaint was filed at 7:15 p.m. While I was at the hearing. While you were at the hearing that she was attending. So either she has the ability to be in 2 places at once or she filed a false complaint. I sat down heavily on the couch. They're escalating. Oh, it gets better. I checked our doorbell camera footage, wanting to guess who was walking back and forth in front of our house yesterday evening while you were gone. Please tell me you're kidding. Emma turned her laptop around. The footage showed Patricia making 3 passes by our house between 7:20 and 7:45 p.m., each time slowing down and looking toward our windows. Dad, she's literally manufacturing violations. Okay, this has gone too far. I'm calling the police. Wait, I have a better idea. Emma's better idea turned out to be crowdsourcing. She'd created a private Facebook group called Saguaro Springs Residents and sent invitations to every homeowner in the community. Within hours, 30 residents had joined and started sharing their own HOA horror stories. The Chens had been fined for their daughter's birthday party despite following all noise ordinances. The Johnsons received a violation for having their garage door open during the day while doing home repairs. The Martinez family was cited for their teenage son's car being parked legally on the street overnight. Dad, look at this, Emma said Thursday evening, scrolling through the group. Mrs. Patterson from Desert Rose Court says she was fined for hanging Christmas lights in November. Then the rule was changed in December to allow holiday decorations starting November 1st. That's the same pattern we identified. Right, but check this out. 7 families have been fined a total of $4,600 in the past 6 months, all for violations of rules that were changed within 2 weeks of the alleged violations. I read through the posts feeling my anger transform into something colder and more focused. Emma, can you check something for me? How much did we pay Desert Property Management last year in HOA fees? She pulled up our bank statements. Looks like about $1,800 for the year. And how much did they collect in fines? Emma did some quick math based on the Facebook group responses. At least $4,600 just from the families who've posted so far. Probably more. So they're making more money from fines than from management fees. Dad, that's illegal. It's illegal. HOA fines are supposed to be punitive, not profit centers. Friday morning brought another certified letter, this one announcing a hearing for the noise complaint. But Friday afternoon brought something better, a message from David Chen, who turned out to be a retired attorney. Mark, I saw your post in the Facebook group. Would you mind if I stop by this evening? I think we need to talk. David arrived at 6 with a briefcase and a serious expression. He was a small man with graying hair and intense eyes that missed nothing. I've been documenting HOA violations for the past year, he said, settling into our living room chair. My wife thought I was being paranoid, but after reading your research, I think we have a bigger problem than isolated bad decisions. How much bigger? David opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. I've identified 43 rule changes in the past 18 months. 38 of those changes were followed by immediate violations against specific residents within 2 weeks. The total fines assessed exceed $22,000. Emma whistled softly. That's like a whole year of HOA fees. It's systematic, David continued. Rule changes target specific residents' fines are assessed immediately, and appeals are denied through procedural manipulation. It's a revenue generation scheme. Can we prove it? We can document it extensively, but proving intent requires more than patterns. We need evidence of coordination between the board and management company. I thought about Brenda Morrison's Facebook comments and her immediate knowledge of board decisions. What if we had evidence of communication between board members and the management company about targeting specific residents? That would be smoke and gun material. Do you have something like that? Maybe. Give me a day to check something. Saturday morning, I called Desert Property Management and asked to speak with Brenda Morrison. This is Mark Sullivan from Saguaro Springs. I wanted to discuss the hearing process for HOA violations. What about it? I'm curious about the timeline. How quickly can violations be processed from board identification to resident notification? It depends on the situation. Why, I'm just trying to understand the process. For instance, if a board member identifies a violation during their regular community walkthrough, how long before the notice goes out? Usually within 24 hours if it's urgent. And do board members communicate directly with your office about violations, or does it go through formal channels? Board members can email or call directly for urgent matters. I see, and these communications are documented. Silence. Mr. Sullivan, what exactly are you trying to find out? I'm trying to understand whether my noise complaint was filed before or after the alleged violation occurred. I don't know what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm asking directly, was Patricia Hendricks in communication with your office about my property before Tuesday night? The line went dead. That afternoon, Emma and I drove to the Maricopa County Recorder's Office to research HOA management contracts and board insurance policies. What we found confirmed David's suspicions. Desert Property Management had a performance bonus structure tied to community compliance metrics, with financial incentives for reducing violations through proactive enforcement measures. In plain English, they made more money when they issued more fines. Dad, this is unbelievable, Emma said as we sat in the parking lot reviewing documents. They literally have a contract that pays them extra for fining people. It gets worse. Look at the insurance policy. The HOA's liability insurance had specific exclusions for actions taken by individual board members outside the scope of their authority. If Patricia was acting individually rather than as an official board representative, the community's insurance wouldn't cover any legal liability. She's been operating without authorization. It looks that way. The board meeting minutes show that most of the rule changes were proposed and approved by Patricia alone without discussion or vote by the full board. Emma leaned back in her seat. So she's been making up rules, having people fined for breaking them, and the management company has been going along with it because they get paid more for issuing fines. That's exactly what it looks like. Dad, we need to call that attorney. David Chen reviewed our findings Sunday evening with the intensity of someone solving a particularly challenging puzzle. This is good work, he said finally. Very good work. You've documented a clear pattern of procedural violations, selective enforcement, and financial incentives for improper behavior. So what's our next step? We have two options. We can file complaints with the Arizona Department of Real Estate, which oversees HOA management companies, and with the State Attorney General's office. Or we can handle this internally. What do you mean by internally? Arizona law allows residents to call for a special meeting to recall board members. We need 20% of homeowners to sign a petition, then we hold a community vote. How many signatures is 20%? David consulted his notes. Saguaro Springs has 212 homes. We need 43 signatures. Emma pulled up the Facebook group on her phone. We have 38 members already, and 3 more asked to join today. So we're close. We're very close, but Mark, I need to warn you, if we go this route, things are going to get ugly. Patricia won't go quietly, and she'll probably escalate her harassment before the recall vote. She's already escalating. The noise complaint was completely fabricated. I know, but expect it to get worse. Are you prepared for that? I looked at Emma, who was already nodding. We're prepared. Monday morning, we started collecting signatures. David had drafted a formal petition citing specific violations of fiduciary duty and procedural misconduct. Emma created a simple website explaining the recall process and documenting the evidence we'd gathered. The response was immediate and overwhelming. By noon, we had 28 signatures. By evening, we were at 35. Tuesday brought the noise complaint hearing and Patricia's first major tactical error. The hearing was scheduled for 7 p.m. at the same Desert Property Management office. I arrived early and set up my laptop to record the proceedings, having learned that Arizona law allows any party to record official meetings. Patricia, Robert, and Jennifer were already seated when I arrived, along with Brenda Morrison from the management company. Before we begin, I said, I want to confirm that this hearing is being recorded as required by state law. We discussed this last week, Patricia said. Notes are sufficient. Actually, they're not. Arizona Revised Statutes. Title 33, Chapter 16, requires all HOA proceedings to be either recorded or transcribed by a certified court reporter. Since I don't see a court reporter, I'll be recording. You don't have permission to record this meeting, Brenda said. I don't need permission. Arizona is a one-party consent state, and as a participant in this proceeding, I have the right to record. I started the recording software and placed my laptop where everyone could see the screen. Now, let's discuss this noise complaint. According to the violation notice, loud music was playing at my residence until midnight on Tuesday, June 15th. Is that correct? That's what the complaint states, Patricia said. And who filed this complaint? A concerned neighbor. Could you identify the neighbor? Complaints can be filed anonymously. Actually, they can't. Our governing documents require all complaints to include the complainant's name and contact information. Anonymous complaints aren't valid under our CCRs. Jennifer flipped through a stack of papers, looking increasingly uncomfortable. The complainant was, let me find it here. The complainant was Patricia Hendricks, I said. According to the timestamp on the violation, the complaint was filed at 7:15 p.m. on Tuesday, June 15th. Is that correct? Patricia's face had gone pale. Yes, I filed the complaint at 7:15 p.m. on Tuesday. Yes. Tuesday evening, when you were attending my landscaping violation hearing at this same office, silence filled the room like smoke. Mrs. Hendricks, you were present at my hearing from 7 to 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday. The meeting attendance sheet which you signed confirms your presence. Yet you filed a noise complaint at 7:15 p.m. claiming to have witnessed a violation at my residence. Could you explain how you were in two places simultaneously? Robert shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Perhaps there was an error in the timestamp. There was no error. I have the original email notification from Desert Property Management sent at 7:16 p.m. on Tuesday. The complaint was filed while Mrs. Hendricks was sitting 30 feet from where she's sitting right now. I pulled out my laptop and showed them the email. More importantly, I have doorbell camera footage from Tuesday evening showing Mrs. Hendricks walking past my house at 7:20, 7:35, and 7:43 p.m. Since she was supposedly at this office during those times, the footage proves she was actually surveilling my property while filing false complaints. Patricia stood up abruptly. This hearing is over. The hearing is over when the complainant explains how she witnessed a violation while attending a meeting 30 miles away. I said calmly, unless you're admitting the complaint was false. I'm not admitting anything. Then please explain the timeline discrepancy. Patricia looked at Robert and Jennifer, both of whom were staring at their papers. Brenda Morrison had gone completely silent. The complaint stands, Patricia said finally. No, it doesn't. Arizona law makes filing false complaints a misdemeanor offense. I'm not threatening legal action, but I am documenting that this complaint was physically impossible and therefore fraudulent. I closed my laptop and gathered my papers. Mrs. Hendricks, I'll be filing a formal complaint about this incident with the Department of Real Estate and the State Attorney General's office. You might want to consult with legal counsel. I walked out, leaving them in stunned silence. Emma was waiting in the driveway when I got home, practically bouncing with excitement. Dad, we got the signatures. 46 people signed the recall petition. 46. We only needed 43. Mrs. Patterson from Desert Rose brought her neighbors, and David Chen walked through the cactus flower section this afternoon. People are really angry about this. What's the next step? David says we submit the petition to the management company and they have to schedule a recall election within 60 days. But, Dad, you should see the Facebook group. Patricia's been messaging people directly, trying to get them to withdraw their signatures. What kind of messages? Emma showed me her phone. Patricia had sent nearly identical messages to multiple residents. I understand you signed a petition regarding board governance. I wanted to make sure you understood the potential legal and financial consequences of removing qualified board members during a fiscal year. Is she threatening people? It sounds like it. Mrs. Johnson said Patricia called her personally and mentioned that recall elections can be expensive and homeowners might face special assessments to cover the costs. That's intimidation. David thinks so too. He says we should document all the contact attempts and include them in our formal complaint. Wednesday morning, we submitted the recall petition to Desert Property Management via certified mail. By law, they had 5 business days to verify the signatures and schedule the election. Thursday afternoon, Brenda Morrison called. Mr. Sullivan, we've reviewed your recall petition and found several irregularities. What kind of irregularities? Signatures that don't match our records residents who aren't current on their HOA fees, and petition pages that weren't properly notarized. The petition doesn't require notarization under Arizona law. It requires notarization under our governing documents. Could you cite the specific section? I'll email you the relevant documentation. While you're looking that up, could you also email me the legal authority that allows you to reject signatures based on fee payment status? Because Arizona statutes say recall petitions can only be rejected for fraud or insufficient signatures. Mr. Sullivan, we're trying to follow proper procedures here. No, you're not. You're trying to invalidate a legitimate petition through procedural manipulation. I'm going to ask you directly, are you rejecting this petition on behalf of the board, or are you following instructions from Desert Property Management? I'm following established procedures. Whose procedures state law or company policy? The line went dead. Emma found me in the kitchen an hour later staring at a fresh stack of certified letters. More violations, she asked. 5 more violations. Apparently, our mailbox is too close to the street. Our garage door was left open during daylight hours. My car was parked facing the wrong direction in our own driveway. You left your bicycle on the front lawn, and our trash cans were visible from the street after collection day. Dad, my bike is in the garage. It hasn't been on the lawn in months. I know. And your car is parked the same way it's been parked for 3 years. I know. Emma sat down across from me. They're just making stuff up now. It's harassment. Pure and simple harassment designed to cost us money and make us give up. Are we giving up? I looked at my daughter, 17 years old, fierce, brilliant, and absolutely fearless in the face of adult corruption. No, we're not giving up. But Emma, I need you to understand that this is going to get worse before it gets better. Patricia is desperate now, and desperate people make bad decisions. Worse how, I don't know yet, but we need to be prepared for anything. Friday brought the answer to my question. Emma called me at work, her voice tight with controlled anger. Dad, you need to come home, now. What happened? Just come home and bring a camera. I found Emma standing in our front yard with David Chin and 3 neighbors I didn't recognize. Our barrel cactus, the one that started this whole mess, had been hacked apart with what looked like a machete. Chunks of cactus flesh lay scattered across the river rock, and a handwritten note was stuck to one of the larger pieces with a kitchen knife. The note read, "Failure to comply will result in escalated enforcement measures." When did this happen? I asked, photographing the scene from multiple angles. Sometime between 8 and 10 this morning, David said. Mrs. Patterson saw a white SUV parked across the street around 9:30, but didn't think anything of it until Emma called her. A white SUV? Like Patricia's, Emma said. Dad, this is destruction of property. This is a felony. I called the Phoenix Police non-emergency line and explained the situation. The officer who responded was a tired-looking woman in her 30s who took notes with the enthusiasm of someone filling out tax forms. So, this is an HOA dispute, Officer Martinez asked. This is criminal destruction of property connected to an HOA dispute, I corrected. Did you see who did it? No, but we have a neighbor who saw a vehicle matching the description of a specific person's car. A specific person you're having a dispute with? Yes. Officer Martinez closed her notepad. Mr. Sullivan, I'm going to be honest with you. Unless you have video footage or direct witnesses, there's not much we can do. HOA disputes get heated, but without clear evidence of who committed the vandalism, this is a civil matter. It's a civil matter until someone gets hurt. Has anyone been threatened directly? I showed her the note. What would you call this? Vague. It doesn't threaten bodily harm, and it's not specifically directed at any individual. After the officer left, David and I sat on my front porch while Emma cleaned up the cactus debris. Mark, this has crossed a line, David said. Whoever did this committed criminal trespass and destruction of property. But we can't prove it was Patricia. We don't have to prove it in court. We just have to prove it to the community. What do you mean? David pulled out his phone and showed me the Saguaro Springs residents' Facebook group. Emma had posted photos of the vandalism along with a timeline of escalating harassment. The response was immediate and angry. 43 comments in the past hour, most expressing outrage, and several sharing their own stories of suspicious incidents. Mark, people are scared. This isn't about HOA rules anymore. This is about safety. So what do? We accelerate the timeline. Instead of waiting for Desert Property Management to process the recall petition, we call an emergency community meeting. Can we do that? Arizona law allows residents to call emergency meetings with 72 hours notice if there's an immediate threat to community safety or financial integrity. I'd say harassment and property destruction qualify. That evening, Emma and I drafted an emergency meeting notice while David researched the legal requirements. The meeting would be held Sunday afternoon at the community center with a simple agenda: remove Patricia Hendricks from the board and investigate the relationship between board members and desert property management. Saturday morning, we hand-delivered meeting notices to every house in Saguaro Springs. The response was immediate. By noon, 18 residents had called to confirm attendance, and the Facebook group had grown to 62 members. Saturday afternoon brought Patricia's counterattack. Emma found the flyer under our doormat around 3 p.m. It was professionally printed on cream-colored paper with the Saguaro Springs logo at the top. Urgent community notice. Disruptive residents Mark Sullivan and David Chen are attempting to undermine legitimate HOA governance through false accusations and intimidation tactics. These individuals have repeatedly violated community standards and are now trying to remove qualified board members who refuse to excuse their behavior. Do not be deceived by their self-serving propaganda. Your elected board will continue to enforce community standards fairly and consistently. The flyer was signed Saguaro Springs Board of Directors and included contact information for desert property management. Dad, she's panicking, Emma said. This is desperate. This is defamation, I corrected, photographing the flyer. She's accused us of intimidation and false accusations without any evidence. Should we respond? We don't need to respond. The vandalism and the timing of this flyer will speak for themselves. Sunday afternoon, the Saguaro Springs Community Center was packed. I counted 87 residents, including families I'd never seen before, and several elderly residents who rarely attended community events. Patricia sat in the front row with Robert Walsh and Jennifer Martinez, flanked by Brenda Morrison and a man in a dark suit who looked like an attorney. David called the meeting to order at 2 p.m. sharp. This emergency meeting was called to address escalating harassment and potential safety threats within our community. Before we discuss specific incidents, I want to review the procedural issues that led us here. David outlined the pattern of rule changes, selective enforcement, and financial incentives we'd discovered. He showed spreadsheets documenting violation patterns and timelines proving that rule changes consistently preceded targeted enforcement. These aren't isolated mistakes, David concluded. This is systematic abuse of board authority for financial gain. Patricia stood up. I object to these proceedings. This meeting wasn't properly called, and the allegations are completely unfounded. Mrs. Hendricks, the meeting was called under Arizona Revised Statutes, Title 33, Chapter 16, Section 1804, which allows emergency meetings with 72 hours notice. Legal notice was provided to all residents yesterday morning. The charges are still unfounded. David nodded to me, and I stood up. Mrs. Hendricks, on Tuesday evening, you filed a noise complaint claiming to witness a violation at my residence. At the same time, you were attending a board hearing 30 miles away. How do you explain this discrepancy? I don't have to explain anything to you. You do have to explain it to this community. You've been filing false reports and harassing residents who question your authority. That's defamation. It's documented fact. I have recordings of the hearing where you admitted filing the complaint, time-stamped evidence, proving you were in two places simultaneously, and camera footage showing you surveilling my property. A murmur went through the crowd. Several residents pulled out their phones, apparently recording the exchange. Furthermore, I continued, yesterday morning someone destroyed property on my front yard and left a threatening note. A neighbor witnessed a white SUV matching your vehicle in the area around the time of the incident. Patricia's face had gone completely white. Are you accusing me of vandalism? I'm stating the facts and letting the community draw their own conclusions. The man in the dark suit leaned over and whispered something to Patricia. She sat down abruptly. If there are no further objections, David said, we'll proceed to the recall vote. All residents in good standing are eligible to vote. The question is simple. Should Patricia Hendricks be removed from the HOA board for misconduct in office? The vote wasn't even close. 81 residents voted to remove Patricia, 4 voted against, and 2 abstained. Robert Walsh and Jennifer Martinez resigned immediately rather than face their own recall votes. After the meeting, Patricia approached me in the parking lot. Her composure was completely gone, replaced by something that looked like panic. Mark, we need to talk. I don't think we have anything to discuss. Please, 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I nodded. This has gotten out of hand, Patricia said. I never meant for things to go this far. What did you mean? I just wanted people to follow the rules. This community has standards, and when people ignore them, property values suffer. So you changed the rules specifically to target residents you didn't like. It wasn't like that. Patricia, we have documentation proving it was exactly like that. Rule changes followed by immediate violations, financial incentives for the management company, and systematic harassment of anyone who questioned your authority. I was trying to protect the community. You were trying to control the community. There's a difference. Patricia looked around the parking lot where clusters of residents were still discussing the meeting. What happens now? Now the community elects a new board, and we file formal complaints with the state attorney general and the Department of Real Estate. And the vandalism accusations, that depends on whether you want to admit what you did or let the police investigation continue. Patricia stared at the ground for a long moment. I was angry. I felt like you were undermining everything I'd worked to build here. So you destroyed my property. I wanted to send a message. The message you sent was that you're willing to commit crimes to maintain power. It won't happen again. You're right. It won't happen again because you're no longer in a position to make it happen. Patricia nodded slowly and walked to her car without another word. The next 6 weeks were a blur of paperwork, interviews, and community meetings. The Arizona Department of Real Estate opened a formal investigation into desert property management's practices and discovered multiple violations of state licensing requirements. The management company's performance bonus structure was ruled improper, and they were required to refund all fines assessed under improperly implemented rule changes. Patricia ultimately pleaded guilty to criminal trespass and destruction of property in exchange for a suspended sentence and restitution for the damaged cactus. Robert Walsh and Jennifer Martinez were cleared of any wrongdoing. They'd simply been following Patricia's lead without understanding the legal implications. Emma threw herself into the process of rebuilding community governance with the enthusiasm of someone who'd discovered her calling. She helped draft new bylaws requiring transparency in rule, changes established a community website for better communication, and organized quarterly town halls to prevent future communication breakdowns. Dad, you know what's funny? Emma said one evening as we planted a new barrel cactus in the exact spot where the old one had been destroyed. What's that? All of this started because Mrs. Hendricks thought a cactus was going to hurt someone, but the only person who got hurt was her. I looked at the new cactus, smaller than its predecessor, but already showing signs of healthy growth. I think the lesson here is that communities work better when people follow the rules they agree to follow, rather than changing the rules to suit their personal preferences. Is that the moral of our story? It's one of the morals. The other one is that you should never underestimate the power of good documentation and a teenager with excellent research skills. Emma grinned and handed me the watering can. I'll remember that for college applications. 6 months later, Saguaro Springs had new leadership, transparent governance, and the lowest fine assessment rate in its history. Property values remained stable. Community satisfaction surveys showed dramatic improvement, and Emma had earned early admission to Arizona State University with a planned major in public administration. The barrel cactus grew back stronger than before, and I never received another HOA violation notice. Sometimes the best way to deal with bullies is to make them follow their own rules. This is a dramatized story inspired by common HOA disputes, not legal advice.